لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. ما بعد, the entirety of our discussions have been about one of the women in the history of Islam. She was not just a woman in the history of Islam. She was a woman who helped transmitted a quarter of the entirety of the knowledge of Islam. If you put the knowledge that was gathered in Islam, put everything together which were transmitted, 1/4 of them, the entirety of our knowledge in terms of the Quran, in terms of tafsir, in terms of tariq, in terms of hadith, in terms of fiqh, in terms of the science of the medicine, and the rest of the various sciences of our deen. Al-Imam Hakim An-Nisaburi rahimahullah said, Humila anha rubu' al-Sharia. 1/4 of the Sharia was transmitted from her. That woman was Āishah Abdillah Siddiqatu bint Siddiq Habibatu Zawjatu Habibillah Āishah radiyallahu anha. The discussions have been about her. The entirety of over 120 pages from the book Siyar A'alām An-Nubala by Imām Adh-Dhahabi. Siyar A'alām An-Nubala itself occurs in about 28 volumes, with the checking and editing that has the forward, the muqaddimah of Dr. Bashar Awad Ma'ruf. It occurs in 28 volumes, and that's with the checking of Shaykh Shu'aib al-Arnaut. The Seerah, the biography, the life of Āishah occurs in the 3rd volume, for over 120 pages. We have patiently followed these pages one after the other until we got to our last class in page 188. In the last class, we were on page 188, and we came into the beginning of page 199 from the Seerah of Āishah in the book Siyar A'alām An-Nubala by Al-Hafiz Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah. The main issue in the last class was about a matter that the people were asking about. Amr ibn Abi Amr rahimahullah said, Sa'altu al-Qasim ibn Muhammad. I asked al-Qasim ibn Muhammad. Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad is one of the grandchildren of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr as-Siddiq was the boy who was born by Asma'u bint Rumais when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was going for the Hajj that he went, after which he died in about 3 months. A boy was born during that Hajj. In that hadith of Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari that we would have studied about Hajj, a young boy was born. That boy was Muhammad, the son of Abu Bakr. He has a son, Al-Qasim. Amr ibn Abi Amr said, Sa'altu al-Qasim ibn Muhammad. I asked Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad, I said, Inna nasan yaz'umuna anna Rasulallahi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam naha anil ahmarayn al-mu'asfar wal-zahab. Inna nasan yaz'umuna anna Rasulallahi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam naha anil ahmarayn. Ya Qasim, O Shaykh Qasim, some of the people claim that anna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam Naha anil ahmarain. He has prohibited wearing the two red things. Some of the people said the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited the two red things. Yes, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited them, and that was al-mu'asfar wa zahab. Al-mu'asfar is a cloth that has been dyed with a color that is reddish. When you dye a cloth with red, purely red, pure red, and that goes towards the orange color, the pure red that goes towards the orange color, this color has been prohibited by the Prophet ﷺ. Likewise, the use of golden ornaments has been prohibited by the Prophet ﷺ. But the prohibition of these two things are restricted to the males of this ummah. We, the males, we are prohibited from wearing a color that is purely red, that red that goes towards orange. We have been prohibited from wearing it. Likewise, we have been prohibited from dressing and wearing golden ornaments. So the people thought that that prohibition covers both males and females. So Amr ibn Abi Amr came to ask Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad. Why was he asking Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad? He was asking Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad because Al-Qasim was very close to the house of Āishah. Al-Qasim learned under Āishah radiyallahu anha. So if there was a prohibition, Al-Qasim would know as a learned person, and he was from the Fuqaha al-Sab'a of Al-Madinah. Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad was from the great 7 scholars of fiqh in the city of Medina during the time that followed the time of the companion, the time of the Tabi'un. Al-Qasim was well known. He learned from Āishah radiyallahu anha. So they were asking, Inna nas yaz'umuna anna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam naha anil ahmarain. Some of the people claim that the Prophet had alayhi salatu wasalam prohibited the two red things, al-mu'asfar, dressing in clothes that are purely red, tending towards the orange color, wal-zahab, and then use of golden ornaments. They thought that the prohibition includes both males and females. فقال Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad said, Rahimahullah, كذبوا والله. They have told the lie. I swear by Allah, they have erred. The people of Hijaz, when they say kadhaba, what they mean is that akhta'a. So he is not ascribing them to lies. He was rather saying that they have erred. He said, Wallahi, I swear by Allah, لَقَدْ رَأَيْتُ عَائِشَةَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهَا تَلْبَسُ الْمُعَسْفَرَاتِ. I had seen Āishah wearing dresses that are reddish, tinging towards orange. That red, pure red, going towards orange. I saw Āishah dressing like that, wearing such a color. وَتَلْبَسُ خَوَاتِمَ الذَّهَبِ. And I saw her wearing golden rings that were made of gold. So it means that wearing these two things, wearing reddish clothes or wearing golden ornaments, they are allowed for the women. Even though they have been prohibited in Islam for males, they have been allowed for the females of this deen. So that was why the bulk of the reports we read in the last class were about that. When Imām Adh-Dhahabi mentioned a number of reports that showed that it was lawful for a woman to dress in reddish clothes, even though it was prohibited. We recalled the hadith of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam prohibited males from dressing in such purely red garments. Men don't wear purely red garments, looking like let me give this description so that it becomes clear. Look at the red of the Buddhists. That is that red we have been prohibited from wearing it. The Buddhists have been wearing it since a long time, even before the Prophet came. So wearing it is from the aspects of At-Tashabbuh bil-Kuffar. One of the groups of people who wear it in our Nigeria in the context are the Maharajis. They wear that red, pure red, that tends towards orange. They wear it too. It is prohibited. The Prophet ﷺ prohibited it upon the grounds that it is from the dress of the kuffar. So let us not wear it. Men, don't wear it. On page 189 of our book, Imām Adh-Dhahabi rahimahullah, and the second line of that page, page 189, he mentioned وَأَنْ مُعَاذَ الْعَدَوِيَّةِ قالت Mu'adha bintu Abdillah al-Adawiyya, that's her name, Mu'adhatu bintu Abdillah al-Adawiyya. She was from the Tabi'iyat. She said, Ra'aytu ala Āishah radiyallahu anha. I saw Āishah wearing milhafatan safra. I saw her wearing a jilbab that was yellowish in its color. Ra'aytu ala Āishah. I saw Āishah dressing in milhafatan safra, dressing in a jilbab, because linguistically the meaning of jilbab is milhafa, so a dress that covers the entirety of a woman. So all of these go to show that that color is permissible for a woman. But don't forget, like we mentioned in the previous class, the common thing was reported by Salama radiyallahu anha, that when Allah revealed the verse in Surah Al-Ahzab, يا أيها النبي كل أزواجك وبناتك ونساء المؤمنين يدنين عليهن من جلابيبهن. Salama said رضي الله عنها that the women of Al-Ansar, they went out and they were dressing, looking like Al-Girban. The Girban is that black bed. Let us Google the meaning and the picture of the bed. Al-Ghirban. She said, radiyallahu anha, they were dressed such that they appeared like Girban. That Girban is a bed that's completely black. The only thing you see on that bed are the eyes. The only thing you see on the eyes, the only thing you see on that bed are the eyes of the bird. In fact, if you don't look well, you would think that that bed has no eyes. So that is why the common thing women wear in terms of jilbab is black. But al-mu'asfar or safra is talking about permissibility. It is something for which, when it happens, we would not say that the woman has done something impermissible. It can happen sometimes. I remember in Kaduna State, about 2 years ago, when the trouble with the Shia, or 3 years ago, or even a bit more, shortly before the COVID-19 case, women were prohibited from wearing the black jilbab. Why? Because at that time, the police and the security agents used it as a means of recognizing the Shia, who were known to be dressing in black at that time. So at that time, many of the women had to change the colors of their jalabi. So if something happens and a woman dresses in al-mu'asfar, or she dresses in milhafatun safra, there is no blame, bi'idhnillah. There is no blame that a woman wears a color different from black. But the common thing amongst the women in the past was that when that verse yudnina alayhinna min jalabibihinna was revealed, they dressed in black, looking like the bird called what? Al-Girban. I hope that this issue is clarified. Bismillah. If we come down that page, the last thing we read was that narration from Āishah, reported by Ibrāhīm an-Nakhai, when he said that قالت عائشة رضي الله عنها يا ليتني كنت ورقة من هذه الشجرة. That Ibrahim al-Nakha'i said, that Āishah said, radiyallahu anha, Ya laytani, oh, how unfortunate is it that I am not waraqatan min hadhihi shajara. I'm not a leaf from the tree. This narration we mentioned in the last class that is weak because Ibrahim ibn Yazid al-Nakha'i was not known to report hadith from Āishah. So the isnad is a broken chain. The report has a broken chain between Ibrahim and who? And Āishah. So we set that narration aside. The meaning itself is not something that she would say radiyallahu anha. And if it were authentic that she actually said it, even though it is weak, perhaps it would be considered similar to that statement of Maryam radiyallahu anha in the Quran, when she wished that she had died and became something that was messian mansiya, something that was absolutely forgotten. When they desired that they had not done something, they did something and they wished that they had not done it at all. That was to show the seriousness of what they had done, by way of feeling that they wish that they had not done that thing at all. So I hope that that is clear. After all these, the next in the reading that Imām Adh-Dhahabi rahimahullah mentioned in this book in Siyar A'alām An-Nubala regarding the report from our mother Āishah radiyallahu anha was what he said, and Ibn Ulayya and Ayyuba and Ibn Abi Mulaykata قالت عائشة رضي الله عنها توفي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم في بيتي وفي يومي وليلتي وبين سحري ونحري ودخل عبد الرحمن ابن أبي بكر ومعه سواك رطب فناظر إليه حتى ظننت أنه يريده فأخذته فمضغته ونفضته وطيبته ثم دفعته إليه أستن به كأحسن ما رأيت مستنا قط ثم ذهب يرفعه إلي فسقطت يده فأخذت أدعو له بدعاء كان يدعو به له جبريل وكان هو يدعو به إذا مرض فلم يدع به في مرضه ذاك فرفع بصره إلى السماء وقال الرفيق الأعلى وفاضت نفسه فالحمد لله الذي جمع بين ريقي وريقه في آخر يومه في الدنيا. Ibn Ulayya was that Imam from the teachers of Al-Imam Ahmad. His name was Ismail ibn Ibrāhīm ibn Ulayya. Ulayya was his grandmother, or was his mother. He used to be ascribed to her because she was a very popular woman in the community at the time. So Ibn Ulayya was Ismail ibn Ibrāhīm ibn Ulayya Abu Bishr al-Basri. He was reporting from Ayyub al-Sakhtiyani, who was reporting from Abdullah ibn Ubaydillah ibn Abi Mulaika, who said, قالت عائشة رضي الله عنها. Āishah in this report was describing how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, the moment of the death of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What happened? The last moment of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam, not the last day, not the last hour, just the last moments before the Prophet passed away alayhi salatu wasalam. This hadith occurs, this isnad with this report that Al-Imām Adh-Dhahabi mentions here. He cited it from Musnad Imam Ahmad, but it has riwayat in Sahih al-Bukhari in a number of places. So this hadith is also reported by Imam al-Bukhari, but this particular wording and expression of this hadith occurs in the Musnad of Al-Imam Ahmad. That's why when he said Ibn Ulayya is a Shaykh of Al-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Ibn Ulayya was not from the shuyukh of Al-Imam al-Bukhari. So if you go back to the Musnad of Al-Imam Ahmad, you will see this report. It describes the last moment, the last period of the death of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So how did it happen? Āishah said, radiyallahu anha, توفي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم في بيتي وفي يومي وليلتي. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam passed away في بيتي, in my room, وفي يومي, on my day, وَلَيْلَتِي, and the night that he was supposed to be with me, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the day the Prophet passed away was a Thursday. The day the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam died was a Monday. That day was a Monday. So she said, توفي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في بيتي. The Prophet died in my room, وفي يومي, on my day, وَلَيْلَتي, and the night he was supposed to stay with me, وَبَيْنَ ثَحْرِي وَنَحْرِي. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam توفي بين سحري. He died in between my sahar. The sahar of an individual is his lungs. When we breathe up and down, we know where our lungs are. That was where the Prophet was. Wanahri, and the upper part of my neck. Why? Because at that time, when the fever was serious with the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she took him to rest on her chest. So when the Prophet passed away, his head was on the upper part of the neck, in the lower part of the neck, upper part of the chest of Āishah, and his back was rested on her chest. Radiyallahu anha. You know the way a woman will bring her husband to herself for him to rest, as if to say, let me provide you every kind of succor that I can provide. That was where the Prophet was, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, with Āishah. توفي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم في بيتي. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam passed away in my room. وفي يومي, on my day, وَلَيْلَتي, and on the night he was supposed to spend with me. وَبَيْنَ سَحْرِي, and between my lungs, وَنَحْرِي, and the upper part of my chest. Between my lungs, between the middle of my chest and the upper part of my chest, like saying the lower part of the neck. That was where he was resting. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَدَخَلَ Abdur-Rahman ibn Abi Bakr. When we were in that condition, Abdur-Rahman ibn Abi Bakr came in. That was one of the brothers of who? Āishah. One of the brothers of Āishah came in. وَمَعَهُ سِوَاكٌ رَطْبٌ. And Abdur-Rahman was holding a chewing stick that was fresh, not dried. Abdur-Rahman was having a fresh chewing stick with him. فَنَظَرَ إِلَيْهِ. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam looked at Abdur-Rahman حَتَّى ظَنَنْتُ أَنَّهُ يُرِيدُهُ, until I thought that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wanted that miswak. He wanted that siwak. نَظَرَ إِلَيْهِ. The Prophet was looking at the chewing stick. حَتَّى ظَنَنْتُ أَنَّهُ يُرِيدُهُ, until I thought that the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, he wanted the chewing stick. In the report by Al-Imam An-Nawawi, by Al-Imam An-Nasa'i, because Al-Imam An-Nasa'i rahimahullah, he has an entire book titled Kitab Wafat Nabi Sallallahu, the book about the passing away of the Prophet Sallallahu. It's a whole book of hadith. It is a juz'un hadithiyun. It's a book compiled upon the way of the people of hadith. It is called Kitabu Wafatin Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, and it is published by the Maktaba Darul Imam Ahmad. It is published by Darul Imam Ahmad. Very nice book. It contains about 47 ahadith. It is not talking about the general issues about how the Prophet died, the specifics that day and the events leading to it, about 47 ahadith. And it's a very nice book. I hope that our brothers will pay attention to it. If we come back to this hadith, to this book, and the Musnad of Al-Imam Ahmad, Āishah said, radiyallahu anha, فَقُلْتُ آخُذُهُ لَكَ. So when the Prophet was looking at it, حَتَّى ظَنَنْتُ أَنَّهُ يُرِيدُهُ, Āishah said, the Prophet was looking at the chewing stick until I thought that he wanted it. فَقُلْتُ آخُذُهُ لَكَ. Should I take the chewing stick and give it to you? فَأَشَارَ بِرَأْسِهِ النَّعَمْ. فَأَشَارَ بِرَأْسِهِ النَّعَمْ. So the Prophet gestured using his head, saying, yes. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. فَتَنَاوَلْتُهُ. So Āishah says, so I collected the chewing stick. فَاشْتَدَّ عَلَيْهِ. But when he chewed it, it was tough on him. You know the Prophet was ill, alayhi salatu wassalam. فَاشْتَدَّ عَلَيْهِ. So he found the chewing stick tough. وَقُلْتُ. So I said to him, أُلَيِّنُهُ لَكَ. Should I soften it for you? رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهَا. فَأَشَارَ بِرَأْسِهِ النَّعْمِ. So the Prophet indicated with his head, saying, yes. She said, رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ فَلَيَّنْتُهُ. So I took the chewing stick and I made it to be soft for him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So going back to our text, she said, فَأَخَذْتُهُ. So I took it from Abdurrahman. فَمَضَغْتُهُ. So I chewed it. وَنَفَضْتُهُ. I stretched it. وَطَيَّبْتُهُ. And I cleaned it. So she took it, radiyallahu anha, she cleaned it, she chewed it, she made it something that he could take. But we understood from the other text that we read that what happened was that when he was looking at it, she asked him, should I give it to you? Say yes. So she collected it and gave it to him, alayhi salatu wasalam. فَاشْتَدَّ عَلَيْهِ. But it was tough for him to chew. So she asked him again, وَلَيِّنُهُ لَكَ. Should I soften it for you? So when he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, soften it, he said, فَلَيَّنْتُهُ. So that talyin is what she describes in another riwayah when she said, فَمَضَغْتُهُ وَنَفَضْتُهُ وَطَيَّبْتُهُ ثُمَّ دَفَعْتُهُ إِلَيْهِ sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. She said, so I took it, I chewed it, I stretched it, I made it nice for him to be able to take. ثُمَّ دَفَعْتُهُ إِلَيْهِ. Then I placed this chewing stick, I gave it to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ikhwa, this is a lesson here. If you don't have a wife that's ready to cooperate with you when you are strong, hale and healthy, she cannot be this careful and caring for you at the time of death like this. Look at the care of Āishah for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. She was so caring. She was loving, radiyallahu anha, to her husband, Sayyidu Waladi Adam, radiyallahu anha. She said, radiyallahu anha, ثُمَّ دَفَعْتُهُ إِلَيْهِ. When I had مَضَغْتُهُ وَنَفَضْتُهُ وَطَيَّبْتُهُ ثُمَّ دَفَعْتُهُ إِلَيْهِ. Then I gave the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam the chewing stick. فَاسْتَنَّ بِهِ كَأَحْسَنِ مَا رَأَيْتُهُ مُسْتَنًّا قَبْتُ. فَاسْتَنَّ بِهِ. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam cleansed his mouth using the chewing stick. Because the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Al-Imām An-Nasa'i rahimahullah in his Sunan had reported to us that from the things that the Prophet did at the beginning of his day, when he woke up, the first thing he did was what? He made siwak. Whenever the Prophet woke up, alayhi salatu wasalam, he made siwak. He was well known to regularly clean his mouth, and he always encouraged us to clean our mouths to such an extent that he said, لولا أن أشق على أمتي لأمرتهم بالسواك قبل كل وضوء وقبل كل صلاة. If it were not that I would bring hardship to you, I would have made it compulsory on you that each time you want to make wudu, you should clean your mouth. You should rinse your mouth using the chewing stick or something in the place of chewing stick. Likewise, I would have commanded you to do that even when you want to start your salah. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, from the things that he was well known for, alayhi salatu wasalam, was a very clean mouth. So let it not be that any of us would say it is sunnah for him to have his mouth dirty. Some of our brothers are like that. And some women are like that too. They are nonchalant about their hygiene. The Prophet was very hygienic. And Āishah knew that, radiallahu anha. Did you not see that she said, radiallahu anha, فَمَضَغْتُهُ, when she collected the chewing stick from Abdurrahman ibn Abi Bakr as-Siddiq and she chewed it, وَنَفَضْتُهُ, I stretched it, وَطَيَّبْتُهُ, I made it clean, I made it neat, because the Prophet was known with sound, clean hygiene. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Āishah said, ثُمَّ دَفَعْتُهُ إِلَيْهِ, when she gave the chewing stick to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, فَاسْتَنَّ بِهِ كَأَحْسَنِ مَا رَأَيْتُهُ مُسْتَنًّا قَطُّ. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam rinsed his teeth with the chewing stick, كَأَحْسَنِ مَا رَأَيْتُهُ مُسْتَنًّا قَطُّ, in that, like the best way I had ever seen him clean his mouth. So she used to see him clean his mouth, and the best way he would do that was the same way he did. He paid attention to cleaning his mouth. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. ثُمَّ ذَهَبَ يَرْفَعُهُ إِلَيَّ. Āishah said, radiyallahu anha, then he went on to give me the chewing stick, to return the chewing stick to me. فَسَقَطَتْ يَدُهُ. As he raised the chewing stick towards me, سَقَطَتْ يَدُهُ. His hands fell on the ground. His hands fell. You know, someone raised the hand and then the hand could not wait until she received it. The hands fell. The hands of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam fell. She said, radiyallahu anha, فَأَخَذْتُ أَدْعُو لَهُ, like a woman would do when she notices something like that. She said, فَأَخَذْتُ أَدْعُو لَهُ, I started to make dua for him. كَمَا يَدْعُو بِهِ جِبْرِيلٌ, كَمَا يَدْعُو بِهِ لَهُ جِبْرِيلٌ, in the way that Jibreel alayhi salam would make dua for him. I began to make dua for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And we know one of the things Jibreel used to say to him when he fell ill, especially from the time that Al-Mu'awwidhatayn became revealed, was to say Mu'awwidhatayn, Kul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq and Kul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. Aisha said, وَكَانَ هُوَ يَدْعُو بِهِ إِذَا مَرِضَ. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that's dua that Jibreel would say to him when he fell ill. The Prophet too used to say it إِذَا مَرِضَ, whenever he fell ill. But there was a difference this time. فَلَمْ يَدْعُ بِهِ فِي مَرَضِهِ ذَاكَ. But this sickness in which he died, at the time that the death came nearer, the Prophet stopped that dua. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. فَلَمْ يَدْعُ بِهِ فِي مَرَضِهِ ذَاكَ. So in that illness that he passed away in, he did not say that dua. فَرَفَعَ بَصَرَهُ. Then the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam raised his head up. Before that, when he said, فَلَمْ يَدْعُ بِهِ فِي مَرَضِهِ ذَاكَ, I started making dua. That's dua that Jibreel would make. وَكَانَ هُوَ يَدْعُ بِهِ إِذَا مَرِضَ, and that the Prophet would make each time he fell ill. But he did not make during this illness. We have an additional report from Sunan al-Nasa'i where Al-Imam al-Nasa'i reported with his isnad, and the isnad is sahih from Āishah. There's an additional message here when Āishah said, radiyallahu anha, وَوَجَدْتُ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ وَسَلَّمَ يَسْكُلُ فِي حِجْرِي فَذَهَبْتُ أَنْظُرُ فِي وَجْهِهِ alayhi salatu wassalam. She said, he did not make that dua. So he said, وَوَجَدْتُ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ يَسْكُلُ فِي حِجْرِي. I began to feel that the Messenger of Allah, yaskulu, became heavy on my body, on my bosom. فَذَهَبْتُ أَنْظُرُ فِي وَجْهِهِ. So I went on to look at his face, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. She said, فَرَفَعَ بَصَرَهُ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ. And I noticed when I looked at his face that رَفَعَ بَصَرَهُ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ. He had raised his glance, his sight towards the heavens. Ikhwa, you would know that when the Prophet gave her the chewing stick in return and his hands had fell down, it would have been clear that the matter was near. But as a woman, she was still making dua, thinking that that was the time for that. Radiyallahu anha, still making ruqya, making dua, the kind of dua that Jibreel would make whenever the Prophet fell ill, and the Prophet would make when he fell ill. But on this time, he did not make that dua, alayhi salatu wassalam. And then when she noticed that his hands had dropped, she said, وَجَدْتُ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ يَسْكُلُ فِي حِجْرِي. He had become heavy on my body, meaning that the soul had begun to depart the body. What makes the body become heavy at the time of passing away is when the soul leaves that part of the body and it starts from the feet. The feet will become cold, and then the hands, and then because the last part from where the soul leaves the body is the mouth. So when it leaves, the eyes will be looking at the soul as it goes. So it will be as if the person who passed away is looking at the sky. I have seen this of my father, and I have seen it of my wife. When a person passes away, the eyes open, the mouth open, the eyes open. So when Āishah radiyallahu anha, when she said she found that the Prophet became heavy on her, she said radiyallahu anha, فَذَهَبْتُ أَنْظُرُ فِي وَجْهِهِ. I began to look at his face. فَرَفَعَ بَصَرَهُ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam then raised his sight to the heavens, وَقَالَ. And then he said, alayhi salatu wassalam, الرفيق الأعلى الرفيق الأعلى. I ask Allah's favor to be connected to الرفيق الأعلى. الرفيق الأعلى, we have it in the report, in another report from the Musnad of Al-Imam Ahmad, that the dua he said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, was As'alullah ar-Rafiq al-A'la. You will see in the report that we read on the screen, it just gave ar-Rafiq an-Nasb. What gave it that Nasb? We understand it better in the riwayah of Al-Imam Ahmad, that the dua the Prophet said actually alayhi salatu wasalam was As'alullah ar-Rafiq al-A'la al-As'ada. I ask Allah ar-Rafiq al-A'la, the utmost company, al-As'ad, the most successful, Ma Jibril wa Mikael wa Israfil, in the company of Jibril, in the company of Mikael, in the company of Israfil. This was the dua of the Prophet when he passed away. As'alullah al-Rafiq al-A'la. I ask Allah for the most exalted company. Al-As'ad, the most successful. Ma Jibril, along with Jibril, wa Mikael, wa Israfil. That addition also occurs with an authentic isnad from the Musnad of Imām Ahmad. So Āishah said, radiyallahu anha, فَرَفَعَ بَصَرَهُ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ. The Prophet raised his glances in the direction of the heavens. وَقَالَ, and said, الرَّفِيقَ الْأَعْلَى. We know what he said when he said الرَّفِيقَ الْأَعْلَى. What is it? أَسْأَلُ اللَّهَ الرَّفِيقَ الْأَعْلَى الْأَسْعَدَ مَعَ جِبْرِيلَ وَمِيكَالَ وَإِسْرَافِيلَ. She said, radiyallahu anha, وَفَاضَتْ نَفْسُهُ. And then his soul went away. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When he said that, فَاضَتْ نَفْسُهُ, the soul of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam went away. Āishah said, radiyallahu anha, فَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي جَمَعَ بَيْنَ رِيقِي وَرِيقِهِ في آخر يوم في الدنيا. I praise and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, الذي جمع بين ريقي وريقه, who has combined between my spittle, وريقه, and the spittle of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. You know what she means? When she had used her mouth, her teeth, to make the twin stick to be softer for him, and then place it in his mouth, alayhi salatu wasalam. That was what she referred to when she said that Alhamdulillah alladhi jama'a bayna riqi wa riqihi fi akhiri yawmin min ad-dunya. On the last day of the Prophet on the earth, Allah joined between my spittle, wa riqihi, and the spittle of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That was a perfect description from our mother Āishah radiyallahu anha about the passing away of our Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. I will encourage us to read Kitabul Wafat by Al-Imām An-Nasā'i rahimahullah, the author of As-Sunan As-Sughra that we read in Ramadan. I mentioned to us that he had a number of books. One of the books he had was this book containing 47 ahadith about the passing away of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. Another from the scholars who had written about the passing away of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam was Shaykh Hussein ibn Awda al-Awaisha. Shaykh Hussein Ibn Awda had written a book entitled Musibatu Mawti Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa atharuha fi hayat al-ummah. The trial of the death of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because the dying of the Prophet itself alayhi salatu wasalam was a trial for the companions radiyallahu anhum, wa atharuha fi hayat al-ummah, and the implications and the impacts of his passing away on the life of the Ummah. The first issue many of the companions worried about, like that woman, Ayman, radiallahu anha, the Prophet on the days of Jummah used to go and visit the woman with Abu Bakr and Siddiq and Umar. We remember that after the Prophet died, Abu Bakr and Siddiq went to visit the woman, radiallahu anha. And when they visited her, she was mentioning about the passing away of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Then she began to weep and shed tears. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and Umar asked her, Ma yubkik, ma indallahi khayrun li Rasulillah. What makes you cry? what is with Allah is better for the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. فقالت, the woman said, ما أبكي ألا أكون أعلم أن ما عند الله خير لرسول الله. I'm not crying because I don't know that properly, because I don't know that what is with Allah for the Prophet is better for him alayhi salatu wasalam. ولكن أبكي أن الوحي قد انقطع من السماء. The reason I am crying is that revelation has stopped. Allah will not send down revelation again ila qiyam as-sa'ah, until the last hour will become established. And that statement from her, radiyallahu anha, that walakin abki anna al-wahya qad inqata'a min as-sama'. I'm crying because revelation has stopped to come down from the heavens. It moved Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and Umar radiyallahu anhu. It also moved them to tears radiyallahu anhuma. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his passing away, that was what the last moments that he had, that Āishah radiyallahu anha had described. I wish that we can also get the book Musibatu Mawtin Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa atharuha fi hayatil ummah, together with Kitabu al-Wafat by al-Imam An-Nasa'i rahimahullah, on page 190, the next page of the book on the screen. Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi said, هذا حديث صحيح. This is an authentic hadith. It occurs in the Musnad of Al-Imam Ahmad. It occurs in Sahih al-Bukhari. These reports also occur in Kitab al-Wafat by Al-Imam An-Nasa'i, the author of Sunan al-Nasa'i. These are the reports from Āishah about the last moments of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. I feel like stopping here today. I don't like to go on to read any other thing in addition to what we have read, so that I hope that the questions itself will be about these last moments of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. Abu Amr.
نعم شيخنا صلوات الله عليه.
آمين وإياكم. We have a few questions now about the passing away of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. You see the description of Āishah radiyallahu anha, step by step, moment by moment. She captured it all, radiyallahu anha. And it showed the attention a woman should pay to her husband. I remember somebody was very ill recently. So we went to visit him. He suffered from a very serious illness that he himself thought that he was going to pass away. When we got there, he could not stand up. He ate while lying down and all that. So we asked for, where is the wife? They said she had gone to work. We asked for, where is the wife? They said the wife had gone to work. And that wife works outside the city where they live. So she left her sick husband, who was almost dying, to go and work in a place about 100 kilometers away from home. Are these the kind of women that we Muslims today, are these the kind of life we are living today? If the husband passed away before she returned, how does she describe to us? How much is the salary for a woman to abandon her husband? May Allah protect her. That is the second case. After that case, I had another case again. I went to visit a brother who was ill. We asked where is his wife. They said she's busy. She's at work, please. And the brother was actually very, very sick. In his own case, he was even taken abroad and brought back to Nigeria. The wife had left him at home. So how does he get food? How does he get cooked food? How does he dress up? How does he do all of these? The wives had abandoned them at home. I think it's unfortunate that people live lives like this. May Allah protect all of us. Really bad. Allah understand. Allah. نعم أبا عمرو.
نعم شيخنا جزاكم الله خير.
آمين وإياكم.
The question here is which supplication did the Prophet and Jibril used to do while he was sick?
The last one was Surah Al-Falaq and Surah Al-Nas. He had one or two before. Bismillah urqiq. That occurs in Sahih Muslim. But when Al-Falaq and Nas came down, he stopped saying anything to seek for cure and protection except Al-Falaq and Nas. So say Al-Falaq and Nas. When you are ill, Ikhwa, say Falaq and Nas. Wallahi, Allah will cure you. Say Falaq and Nas. Say Falaq and Nas. Say Falaq and Nas. You will notice that in this illness, when the day he passed away, he stopped saying it because it was time to go. Alayhi salatu wassalam. It was Al-Falaq and Anas. Those two surahs that the Prophet told us that we would take lightly. These are the two surahs we should read. Al-Falaq and Nas.
شيخنا صلوات الله عليه.
آمين وإياكم.
Concerning the siwak, those have already considered sunnah to clean the mouth before every salah. And another question, should it be used before the commencement of wudu or when washing the mouth during wudu?
The sunnah of as-siwak has two places, and the ruling is that it is sunnatun mu'akkada. Using the siwak is sunnatun mu'akkada. It's an emphasized sunnah. It would have been compulsory, but if he made it compulsory, it would be burden someone else. So it means it's a sunnah that he would emphasize. Alayhi salatu wassalam. So it is sunnah mu'akkada. Before wudu, use siwak. Before wudu, use siwak. Rinse your mouth before wudu. Not the rinsing of al-istinshaq when you put water in the mouth and gargle it. No. Using the chewing stick before you commence wudu. It is sunnatul mu'akkada. Using the chewing stick before you make takbiratul ihram. It is sunnatul mu'akkada. It is from the sunnah that we have left aside. May Allah forgive all of us. Before wudu, rinse your mouth. Before takbiratul ihram, rinse your mouth. The Prophet used to do so, alayhi salatu wasalam. When he woke up in the morning, the first thing the Prophet did, alayhi salatu wasalam. I think it's even necessary we do a lesson on one day, a whole day of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. From the time he woke up to the time he passed, he slept in the night. How did the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, how did he spend his day? Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. The first thing he did whenever he woke up was he rinsed his mouth with a chewing stick. From the sunnah, from the jobs of Āishah. Women understand this fact. From the things that Āishah used to do in the night before she sleeps was prepare his siwak, put it in the place where he will come and pick it. The second thing is his wudu, the water with which he will make wudu. She will prepare it in the night before she sleeps. Because when he wakes up, the first thing he will do is to do what? Pick the siwak and then do what? Make wudu. So a woman can be doing that you know that the first thing your husband will do is that once he wakes up, he needs to brush his mouth. So prepare his brush and his toothpaste, and prepare water for him in the place where he needs the kettle to brush his mouth and use the kettle. So it is sunnah mu'akkada, and it is done. Alayhi salatu wasalam, he used to do it before wudu, and he used to do it before he makes takbiratul ihram. Between the iqama and takbiratul ihram, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, kana yastak, he used to always clean his mouth. I don't know how a brother upon the sunnah will come and have dirty breath, dirty teeth. And then he says sunnah, sunnah, sunnah. These are the sunnah of the Messenger Islam that he is abandoning. May Allah protect us.
Amen. Jazakumullah khairan, Shaykh.
Ameen wa antum Aba Amir.
Another question. Can we make it a habit to recite Al-Falaq and An-Nas and rub on children every morning and night before going to bed?
Yes, make it a habit. Make it a habit not just for the children, for yourself. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he has a sunnah about that. He will blow his hand and then he will recite Al-Ikhlas, Al-Falaq and An-Nas. He will now rub the body. He will blow the hand. Note this. Don't read and then blow. No. Blow first before you read. Blow your hand lightly and then read Al-Falaq. Start with Al-Ikhlas, Al-Falaq, and Nas. Once. Rub the entirety of your body wherever your hands can reach with it. You do it again. Al-Ikhlas, Al-Falaq, and Nas. You rub your body. Al-Ikhlas, Al-Falaq, and Nas. You rub your body. Do it for yourself. Do it for your children. Do it for yourself. Do it for your children. But don't forget, you blow the breeze on your hand first before you do it, before you read on your hand. I hope that it is clear. That is the way to do that before we sleep.
Naam, jazakumullah khairan, Shaykh.
Ameen.
Now, can I seek permission to take my leave? I think
To do what? Abu Amir?
to take my leave, Sheikh. I need to step out of it.
Okay, Bismillah. You can take your leave, Bismillah. Can we call it a day today? Is this?
Naam, Sheikh. Jazakumullah khairan.
Okay. Let's call it today. We come back to class. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa salakum Allah.